Alright, hello everyone. Sorry it's been a little while since I've done a video blog or a tutorial. I think the holiday season and the society's convention and all sorts of things have just kind of have had me a bit busy, and I just haven't had time to really do another video. But I'm back. I'm ready to start doing this again. And I decided this time I was going to go back and do some more Photoshop tutorials. I get a lot of requests for Photoshop tutorials, so I thought it was time to do one of those instead of a video blog for the time being. This time we're going to talk about something rather cool, something that I don't think a lot of people realize they can do, or if they do use this, they use it very sparingly and kind of maybe not even really understanding what they're doing and how much more potential what they're doing has. And what that is using using channels for masks. If you were to put that into YouTube search, you'll probably instantly come up with how to use channels as masks for selections. That's a different topic. We're not going to talk about that today. It's a brilliant topic. I will do something on that eventually. But right now there's hundreds of YouTube videos on there for that. What I'm talking about is using channels for masks for creating the contrast in your photos and adding some color tone to your photos. It's brilliant. It's dead easy, and it's probably the best way I've found to completely control what you're doing with the contrast on your photos. And then when you want to add some tone, change the color tone of the photo, how to do that as well. So this is the image we're going to start with. This isn't going to be a crazy long Photoshop tutorial where I'm going to take you through the full editing of this photo, because there's loads of things that need to be cloned out in it, and we all know how to do that. If you don't, ask me, I'll make a tutorial on that. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of things that just got to be taken out of this photo that are distracting. There's this red light back here. There's this reflection in the mirror. There's this light by his cheek over here. There's this light in the corner here. There's this, I guess it was probably the thing that holds the glasses after they put them in the dishwasher over here. We're not going to care about any of that right now. This is purely to show you how to add contrast and add some color toning to this photo using channels. So, if you've never looked at it before, over here you've got layers, channels, and paths. If you click on that channels one, that's going to bring up the different channels of the photo. What do I mean by channels? I mean your red channel, your green channel, and your blue channel. And put those together and you get your RGB channel, which is a combination of the red, green, and blue. I should state this method doesn't work if you're working on CMKY. That should be obvious. But that's a whole nother topic as well. We won't get into that right now. We're going to assume you're working in RGB for now. So your channels consist of that. Your RGB, which is the combination of the three, the red, the green, and the blue. What we want to do is we want to use one of those channels as a mask for our editing. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some blacks into the shadowy areas of the photo. Right. So what we want to do is we click on one of these, right, and it shows us what that channel looks like on its own. What we want is the channel that has the most contrast on it. So red channel looks all right. We've got, highlighted areas where it's light and it's a little bit darker back here. Green channel, little bit better. Blue channel, well, now that's the one. Blue channel, lots of contrast. So this is significantly brighter than this area back here. That's what we want. So we want to use this channel as a mask. First, before we forget, we're just going to click on the RGB one again, because that puts them all back up again. Now we're going to hold down Command on a Mac, Control on a PC, and click on our blue channel. That's going to make a selection based on the blue channel. We're going to go back up and hit our layers palette here. Now we've got all our layers. We've got the marching ants still making a selection based on the blue channel. That's brilliant. That's what we want. While that's selected, we're going to hit up here our levels adjustment layer. And you can see here we've got a mask that is what our blue channel consisted of. If you hold down the Alt key and click on that mask, you can see what your mask looks like. Now, if you remember a couple of seconds ago, I said what we're going to do with this adjustment is we're going to add blacks into the shadows. First, in case you don't understand, let me explain how a mask works. So if you've got a piece of paper, a black piece of paper, and you poke holes in it, those areas are now white. Those holes will allow light through. The black areas won't. So think of a mask in the same sort of sense. The black areas won't allow the adjustments we make through, and the white areas will allow the adjustments that we make go through. So we want to add blacks to the shadows. We can see that this mask is the opposite of what we want. Right now it's going to allow things through here, and it's not going to allow so much through here. So we need to invert this mask. To do that, on a Mac, Command I, on a PC, Control I. So we've inverted our mask, and we can see that looks a whole lot better already. We've got light, bright areas back here, which means it's going to allow our adjustment through. We've got darker areas here, which means it's going to stop it going through. We need to tweak this a little bit because right now it's going to kind of let everything cross over a little bit. So while we've got our mask thumbnail selected, we're going to hit Command and L or Control L on a PC. And that's going to bring up a levels adjustment that's going to be applied purely to this mask. That's important because this is going to allow us to tweak this mask a little bit. And you can see if I drag the shadows slider over, the shadow areas of the image get darker. That's important because as this gets black, it means it's not going to allow any adjustment we make through. And that's exactly what we want because we're going to add black to the photo. We don't want to add black to the face because it's lit. So we're going to drag that down. Now we can see right. That's good. That's nice and black in the areas we don't want affected. Now we're just going to brighten up the other areas to make sure that those black adjustments get through. I'm going to bring that down just a little bit more, and that looks pretty good. The shadowy areas of the image are nice and bright, which means that we can add black to them quite well. The light highlighted areas of the image are nice and black here, which means that the adjustments of black aren't going to come through. So we're going to go with that. We're going to click OK. If you just click back over on your levels thing, it takes away your mask. Well, it doesn't take away your mask, but it takes away the view of the mask and shows you your image. Now we've got our levels adjustment here. We're just going to drag the black slider over a little bit. And you can see, if I go like that all the way just to show you, it's not affecting the areas we didn't want. We don't want to go crazy with this. We're just going to drag it down a little bit. That looks pretty good to me. I'm going to rename this blacks. And you can see the before and after, right? That already looks really good. But now we need to do the same with the highlights. So we're going to do the same process again. We're going to go to channels. We're going to use that same channel. So we're going to hold down Command or Control on a PC. Click on the blue channel. Makes a selection based upon that channel. Go back over to layers. Click our levels adjustment layer. Boom. We've got a levels adjustment layer with the blue channel as a mask. We hold down the Alt key. That shows us this mask again. This time we know it's right because the light areas are what we want to affect. The dark areas are what we don't want to affect. We just need to kind of tweak that a little bit. So again, with the thumbnail, the layer mask thumbnail selected, hit Command L or Control on a PC. That brings up a levels adjustment strictly for the mask. And this time we're going to drag the highlights up, right? Darken down the background just a little bit first there. Bring that up. We want the face. Yeah, that's pure white. That's good. That's kind of what we want. The background's just about the pure black. There we go. That looks pretty good. So now the light areas are going to be brightened up when we make our adjustment. The dark areas aren't going to be affected at all. Click OK. Click back over on our layers. Little thumbnail there. We got our image back to normal. Now we're just going to drag the white slider over a little bit. And we'll get it to about right there. Looks good. This little eyedropper, if you click on it and then hold down Alt, will show you if you've got any blown out highlights. There's obvious ones. The bottle, I should have sprayed it with, oh, what's that stuff called? Dull matte. I don't remember what it's called. To get rid of glares and reflections from lights. I didn't, so I've got some. Nothing I can do about that now. But yeah, everything looks good. There's a slight little blown highlight on his nose and some on his fingernails there. I'll just get rid of those real quick. So if I click on my mask, I get a nice low opacity brush. And then I'll just paint that away really quick. That's much better. And then maybe we'll do the same on the same bit on the fingernails here. That's just ensuring that, you know, the levels adjustment probably was too much on those areas, but I've got rid of them. So we'll rename this whites. You can see the before and after on that, right? Put it into a group, and we'll call this group contrast. And then that whole group before, after, before, after. And you can see we've significantly altered the contrast in a way that we wanted to. And now as a group, we could adjust this opacity if we want. If we thought it was a bit much, we can reduce the opacity of the group as a whole together. So I'll bring that down to about 90%. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so now we're going to do that same thing, but we're going to do it with adding color to the shadows and highlights. Generally speaking, in nature, you've got blues in the shadows and the dark areas of the world, and you've got yellows to oranges in the bright areas of the world. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to add some blues into the shadows, and we're going to add some oranges into the highlights. You could do this with gradient maps, but those affect the contrast a bit, so I don't tend to do it that way. There's many ways to do this. I like doing it this way. So again, we're going to go back over to our channels. This time I don't want it quite as contrasted as the blue channel. Generally speaking with this, I find that the red channel works really good for it. So we're gonna do select the red channel. So I'm gonna hold down Command or Control on a PC and hit the red channel. That's gonna give us a layer mask based upon, or it's gonna give us a selection based upon the red channel. Now we're gonna add a new layer. So we go down here to our new layer button, click that, and we're gonna add a layer mask to that. And when we hit the layer mask button, it's going to give us a layer mask. We're going to rename this layer blues, so we know we're going to add blues into the shadows. And again, if you hold down the Alt key and click on that, you're going to see what your layer mask looks like. So again, knowing how layer masks work and knowing that we want to add blues into the shadows, we can see that this layer mask is the opposite of what we want. So we'll hit Command and I, Control I on a PC. That will invert the layer mask. We're going to hit Command L and bring up a levels adjustment for that mask. And we're going to make sure we don't get any of the face, at least the highlighted areas of the face. The blues going into the shadows of the face is fine. And that's why I didn't want such a contrasted starting point this time. Make sure we get back. Alright. And that looks pretty good. So we're going to click OK. Go back over to this. We're going to select a blue. Now, when you select your colors, in case you don't know, going from left to right is your saturation. So all the way to the left is very unsaturated, and all the way over to the right is very saturated. Going from top to bottom, you have your sort of darkness of the color that you're looking at. So we don't want very saturated, but we don't want completely unsaturated. So I'm going to go somewhere in the middle of the left to right scale and then kind of select the sort of shade of blue that I want. And I'm going to go with a mid-range sort of blue. We're going to fill this layer with that color. So that's Alt and your backspace key on a Mac, or Alt and Delete on a PC. And you can see it's filled the white areas of our mask with blue. We're going to change this blending mode to color, and then we're going to reduce the opacity. And it's probably going to go down to around 20%. That tends to be where it's at for me. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, somewhere right around. We'll go about 25% on this one. Okay, so that's added blues into the shadows. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go over to our channels. We're going to hold down Command. We're going to click on the red channel. We're going to go back to layers. We're going to create a new layer. We're going to create a layer mask. And then we know that this one is the correct direction, so we don't need to invert it. We're going to hit Command and L, bring up a levels adjustment for it. Brighten up the areas we want to add orange to. Darken the areas we don't want to. With this one, I don't want it quite as significantly contrasted. So I'm going to click OK. That looks good. Now we need to find a nice yellowy orange. I think somewhere. I think about. I don't know if I want a yellow or an orange. Oh, yeah, maybe more orange. Okay, so we'll go with that color. Fill that up with that. Change it to color. And again, reduce the opacity down around 20-ish%. And then before and after, you can see we've added oranges into that. We'll rename this oranges. We'll put those into a group. And that's important because now I can reduce the opacity of the group as a whole. But before I do that, you can see before we've added colored tone adjustment, and then after. Before, after. Before, after. If you ask me, it's a little bit much, so I'm going to reduce the opacity of the group a little bit. That's better. And actually, I'm going to bring that one back up. Okay. And that's it. I mean, that's all this tutorial is going to be. It's going to be about how to use the channels as masks for those sort of things. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have. If you have any ideas for any tutorials or blogs you'd like me to do as well, again, please put them in the comments below and I will do them. Till next time, have fun, keep photographing and editing, and again, let me know if you got any questions.